Well, hello and welcome. As you know, this is Msafiri channel, and my name is John. And today I have a very interesting guest, and he has very interesting information that you need to know about you, the people that want to dare abroad. Almost everyone has a passport somewhere, or maybe is looking forward to have a passport to go. But what does it take to be out there? What are the things that you need? What are the special skills that you need so that you go there? So today we'll be talking about that information with my guest, and he will tell us more about that. And stay tuned for that. So karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Welcome.
So my name is Kibinchi Kinywa.
Yes.
I was born and bred in Embu, specifically a place called Kiajokoma.
Yes.
I think Kiajokoma is now popular all over the country.
You should know it. If you don't know it, come here. We have lots of BNBs.
Yeah. So then a few years ago, I was lucky to go to Japan. So I live in Tokyo, Japan. I went there as a student. I pursued my education, and then in the past few years I've been working in the same country.
Yes.
And I have an opportunity to go back and forth between Japan and Kenya. So like this year, this is my second time to come to Kenya. So I'm lucky in that sense. And it also gives me an opportunity to experience more about these two countries, that is Japan and Kenya. So today I'll be talking to you about my experience in Japan especially, and I hope you will enjoy the show.
Yes. So the information will be about Japan, but you can replicate it to any country, because all these countries, the experience of the people is the same, especially if you're an immigrant. So stay tuned for this. So let's begin with the journey in Japan. Now, especially as a freshman, whenever you went the first time, what is your first experience that you found? Like maybe it's a cultural difference between Kenya and Japan.
Okay, so the first time I went to Japan, I had never, of course, been in any other country like many Kenyans would have that kind of an experience. I was lucky to get a scholarship, and then followed the scholarship to Japan. And as a person who had lived all his life in one culture, it was of course a challenging task to meet people who do not speak your language, people who do not share your religion, people who do not share your culture, people who don't behave like you, and basically people who do not look like you.
So the skin color.
And all those things do play a part. When you live in one similar culture, you think that it's easier to integrate with other people, until you encounter people who look differently from you, and they think differently from you, and you have now to adjust to become like them. So that was a big challenge. I remember when I went to Japan, I didn't have any idea of that people in Japan do not speak English. So I thought, wow, it's abroad, so and you go and you speak English and everybody will understand you. But then when I would go to the airport, my first experience was, even the most basic conversation, many people could not understand what I was saying. So that was my first challenge. I remember in the airplane, actually, we traveled with a little kid and an elderly woman who were visiting Kenya. They were going back to Japan, and they were trying to strike a conversation with me. And the conversation was very hard to come through because of the language barrier. So at that moment I knew that when I get there, maybe that was the biggest challenge that I had to overcome, the language barrier.
Wow, so the first thing that you saw was the language barrier.
Yes.
And can you tell us maybe how long ago was that? Someone would like to know how long like it took for maybe the country, maybe it could be better right now, or can you tell us about the current language speaking ability of the country right now?
Okay, yeah, when I went to Japan a few years ago,
Yes.
Many people couldn't speak in English,
Yeah.
and nothing much has really changed since I went there.
Yes.
Although the younger generation is more optimistic about using the language,
Yeah, yeah.
they have more. You have more young people, trying to study English and do their work in English. But typically in Japan, most things will be done in Japanese. You study in Japanese from grade 1 to university level. You do work in Japanese in your companies and everything. So unless you're in an international kind of an environment, there is no pressure to use English, so to say.
Yes.
So people who use English are people who are interested in it, or people who have gone outside the country, or people who want to stay with the international community.
Yes.
So, and nothing, as I have said, nothing much has changed since I went there.
Wow. So like since nothing much has changed, how adapted have you? Like what do you do to adapt to the environment? Did you have to study the language itself?
Yes, for you to adapt to the environment, you have no option. You have to study the language.
Yes.
You have to master the language. And we have a Kenyan community there. Most of them are very good actually in the language. It's a very hard language to learn because the structure is different from English, and also our local languages here.
Yes.
But people do study and cope, and you have people in charge of big companies in Japan from Kenya who use Japanese to work. Yeah.
Wow, that's nice. So like someone will say, just basically like just living abroad is something that is just beautiful, and you just dreaming of just getting out and going like whatever country you just want to go. How would you explain like, or how would you tell such a person things like life is so soft out there?
I think there is nothing like life is soft abroad. It's a fallacy. It's a lie. But the difference is, for example, if I talk about specifically Japan, Japan offers you opportunities. So, but the availability of those opportunities does not mean that things are easy. It doesn't mean that things are simple and you go and things will work out without you doing anything. No, you do have opportunities, yes, which is something that maybe we lack in Kenya. But then once you get those opportunities, you need to constantly work very, very hard to be able to come out successfully from those opportunities that you have been given. So if I give a comparison in terms of, the sense that if you go out there, life is easy, simple, and you prosper quickly, I don't think that is the case. The issue is you have opportunities, but then those opportunities are very demanding. And specifically about Japan, actually, Japan is a very, very demanding environment in terms of work, in terms of studies, in terms of social life. There are a lot of demands that are attached to living in that country. And so you well, for example, if you get a job, you kind of separate work and social life. I do have a feeling like in Kenya you can kind of mix these two aspects together. You are working, but you're still in a social environment, so it gives you an easier time to work. So sometimes I do miss that kind of an environment when I'm in Japan, because it makes your life easier. It makes your sense of direction easier. Because in Japan, if you're working, it's working. You can use the robot image. You're working, there's nothing else.
Yes. Wow. Some people have said, I've heard lots about China. Maybe not much about Japan, but have heard much about China, which is a sister country, if I may say. and it's been associated with so much racism around, and basically especially to the black people out there. For anyone who doesn't know, the black people is anyone who's not white, and especially now if you're African, now you're completely black now. Although there's nothing like half black, half white, but like black. How would you say? How would the situation be like? Is it different from China, or is it the same thing? Like you would just say, like generally people they are somehow racist, or fully racist, completely.
Okay. Maybe to begin with, naturally or generally Japanese do not like being compared to Chinese. So they have that kind of sibling rivalry kind of one.
Yeah.
So that is Japan, Koreans, and Chinese.
Yeah.
So when we're in Kenya, we tend to think about these people as one group of people. You know, Chinese. When you see them here, you call, hey, Chinese.
Yeah.
But my experience with them is most of them do not actually like that kind of connotation.
Yes.
When they like being.
You rather ask.
Yeah. It's they like you being specific that I am Japanese and we are different from Koreans. We are also different from Chinese. Yes. And of course they have a lot of cultural similarities. Their cultures are very similar to each other. Their languages are also kind of similar to each other. Not similar, but close.
Yes.
Close to each other. But also the differences are big. The differences are very, very, very deep. And that sense, and also their historical experiences makes them want to have people to separate that kind of an experience. So now going back to your question, so the differences of experiences of the black people living in these countries, of course, it's also diverse. And I have no direct experience with the Chinese, so I don't want to speak for Chinese.
Yes.
But the black people's experience in Japan is also unique in a way. I do hear a lot of talk with the black community in Japan, with their experiences in places like US, China, and other places. And we do. Many people give a thumbs up to Japan because Japan is a very welcoming country.
Yes.
Of course, they have their issues. Some of them not outwardly spoken.
Yeah.
But in very general terms, they are very welcoming people, very nice people.
Yeah.
They respect others' spaces.
Yes.
They respect others' people's feelings. And if they have differences with you, most of them will not show that in public.
Okay. So they'll keep it to themselves.
They'll keep it to themselves. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. But
can be really bad. Yeah.
It kind of doesn't give you the time to have a confrontation with them.
Yes.
So you may not find a lot of confrontation between black community and Japanese community in Japan because of the attitude of Japanese people to be a little bit reserved and keep their things to themselves.
Let's talk about just a little bit about the work condition in Japan. Just a little bit, just in the briefest way you can. If there's such a term in English.
Yeah.
The most brief.
So as I have said before,
yes.
Time for work in Japan is time for work.
Yes.
There's no space for trying to be social at a workplace. And maybe it's better to give an example. So, for example, I see many people in our Kenyan offices. You're serving maybe people in a public office, but then if you get a phone call, you can, which is not work related, you can pick the phone call and have a conversation as maybe the person you're serving is waiting for you.
Yeah.
Any public office you go to in Japan, nobody can do that.
Wow.
That is, nobody can pick a phone call that is not work related.
Wow.
As long as you're in the workplace, there's no...
That includes family.
That includes, even
emergency.
If you're not taking a break from work,
yes,
you do not see people engaging with their phones.
Yes.
That is taking a phone call or even texting and things like that. So that gives you a very general image of what work means to them.
Yes.
So work is work. Of course, there is a disadvantage with that because if you anybody out there knows about the history of work in Japan, you will find a lot of people who commit suicide because of depression related to work. And this depression is because of overworking, sometimes very strict working conditions. But in a way that is also what makes their country to grow, to have a grip on the economy is running and their things are running very, 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 very well. So it's maybe kind of a cost that they pay to keep their country what it is today.
Back to racism, is there a supremacy thing whenever you feel like you are working under maybe a Japanese boss and you feel like, I think you are overpowered?
I think a sense of being better than other, being higher than the other being, it kind of maybe a human nature.
Yeah, all right.
So I do feel it, and I think I hear people complain about their relationships with Japanese bosses, for example, in the sense that the culture that you are in, sort of our cultures also tend to dominate the cultures that are joining the dominant culture. So if you're working within a Japanese dominant culture, it seems like there are very many unspoken rules that you have to do things in the Japanese way. So maybe you have a better way to do it from your cultural influence, but then in the Japanese environment, most of them will be focusing on this is how we, the Japanese people, do work. This is how we conduct our businesses. So sometimes you feel like, no, but if we change a little bit and adopt another system, we might do this work better, faster, easier, and in a more relaxed way. But the culture and work environment always dictate that the Japanese way is the only or the better way. So in that sense, there is that kind of a supremacy contest, you might call it, I don't know, or that kind of a sense of, we are better than you, so you change and we don't change. So I think it's troublesome in a way, but in a sense also it works for them, because it works for them in the sense that they are trying to instill the Japanese culture of work or discipline that helps their industries to run. But the negative side of that is some people may feel like there's no space to adjust, there's no space to breathe, and you might also interpret that as an avenue to discriminate against other people, which means, so for example, unfortunately, black people have a reputation of being lazy. It might not be lazy, it might be this is how they do this is their work culture. But now you're in a different work culture that sees how you do your work as a form of laziness. And it's a big problem, Sometimes when they are hiring and you're a black person, they might be more cautious before they get you to the workplace because of that sense of, black people, their work ethics are not as Japanese work ethics. So they are kind of discriminated by the system based on the sense of work ethics cannot fit our work ethics. And, you can call that a form of discrimination.
True. Looking back now, would you say like there are things that you wish you knew before going to Japan?
Yes. One of the main things that I wish I put more effort on, or even maybe prepared myself more, is study of language, because without Japanese language you have no progress in Japan.
Yes.
So kind of having a grip on the language gives you a leeway, it opens your doors, more opportunities, better opportunities, ease of working, and also, for example, there are people who want to fit in their what they call, I think this is what I really want to do. I want to pursue this, nothing else. So if you are choosy about the kind of work you do, language gives you an advantage. So, and because getting the grip on the language is a little bit a difficult task, I do wish that, you know, maybe in my high school days I studied Japanese or something like that. That would have given me more advantages.
And that goes to the advice you'd give someone who's going to a country which doesn't speak English.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're going to a country that does not speak English or Swahili, or your local language,
even in South Africa and they have like Zulu.
Yeah. If you're going to any language, I think in a country rather, language is the key thing. You have to master the language. You have to show the effort, because language does not just open you up to opportunities. It also opens you up to understanding the culture, opens you up to understanding the people, opens you up to understanding that country, and you know that's a good thing.
I think for now, I think you have a good information about information and opportunities out there. It all narrows down to you whether you want to go or not, I guess. That's what we say. Because it can go really good or really bad, just depending on your own issue. Or do you have something you can add before we...
My experience in Japan tells me that sometimes you might be passionate about going to Japan, but then your experience, your skills, your academic levels, and all that combination may cut you off. So if you want to go to a country, I think it's going to look at what do I need to get to that country. So for example, some countries are receptive to skills. Japan is not receptive to skills. Japan is more receptive to people going to study. So if you want an easier avenue to go to Japan, for example, is you go through education. And then after education, you can get into to work. Other countries like the US or some, depending, might be open to people looking for jobs from Kenya. If there is that avenue, then you just need to look at what kind of skills you have and what does that country require.
That is so nice. I think you've had some good information there. You just look at the loophole and exploit that. That's the whole thing. Now use your common sense to do that.
Yeah, and there are opportunities out there. So don't be afraid. Don't say that, oh, this is, you know, special people do this. No, it's very ordinary people who go to these countries. But maybe the key thing is...
Actually, I wanted to ask you that. What does it take to go out there for someone who's never gone there? Is it that you have to be brown skin, you have to be certain heights, you have to have this kind of money?
No, there's nothing special that you need. But of course, as I've said, you need to pay attention to what kind of skill set do you have that might facilitate you going to those countries. You know, if you don't have a degree, for example, that might complicate your chances of entering to some countries. And an example is Japan, because Japan focuses on high skilled labor.
So the more skilled you are, the
most
better the chances.
And also, even the high skilled, if you're high skilled and you're in Kenya, it's even more difficult. But if you can attain the high skill level through education, then you can pursue the education path. So even as I say, it's not special people that go there. You also have to pay the price of what is required. You know. So, but that doesn't mean that you have to be special. It means that you have to understand what you have, the kind of skills that you have, and be ready to pursue the path. Because I feel like so many people want to go, have the sense of, oh, I want to go, but then they have not, they do not have the patience of paying the price. So that's because, like, if you ask people who have gone through education chances interview in Japan, they'll tell you it takes a long time, almost 1 year, you know, back and forth. And many people might give up on the process. So if you're willing to pay the price and go to the end, then you're good to go. But also talk to people who have been there. We have many Kenyan diaspora, and I think they are willing to talk to you. So if you're aiming at a country, look at try to look for somebody who has been there, who is there. They'll talk to you, they'll give you the experience, speak to you about what you need to help you to pursue the right path, maybe a recap.
Yeah, a recap of what he was talking about. The motorcycle just passed by, and it was very noisy. It's about finding the right community there, thanks to the good internet connections, and I think like Facebook, you can search for communities there, Kenyans in Japan, Kenyans in even that specific city, like Kenyans in Tokyo.
Yep.
So if you're aiming that city, so and then maybe you get to ask some questions there. I think that's basically it, and I think it's information that you can replicate in any other country there.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have like anything before like we sum up and we call it a go? We are kind of in a schedule and we have to meet some things, so that's why we are trying to just summarize everything. But I think the information you're getting is just good enough.
Maybe the only thing I would like to emphasize is going out is a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
One, it helps you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps you to see things in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you to look at yourself and your community in a different way. I remember when I went to Japan, actually, coming back, I had a very different worldview of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even very basic things like, you know, how do you dress? How do you talk?
Mm-hmm.
How do you sit in a cafe? How do you talk to people? You know, those things do change. So there's a very beautiful thing with going outside.
Yes.
It opens up your mind, not just to opportunities, but to also the way you think. So if you're that kind of a person who has a passion to go outside, I would encourage you to pursue it. And especially if you're young, don't be afraid. You can go out and fail, which is okay, but the experience you get, you will never get it anywhere else. So it's good if you have a chance and you can pursue that chance. Don't be afraid, pursue it. It's a good thing.
Wow.
But also, when you go out there, it's not as easy as people tend to make it look like. And one of the things that is a big issue in the diaspora community is the issue of being depressed. Because you're in a new environment, you know, you're living with people who don't know you, who don't really care about you. They don't, whatever you do, whatever happens to you, nobody is there to take care of you. So you can be easily prone to depression. And so that's something to pay attention to. So if you're preparing yourself, you also need to understand what are some of the challenges that you might encounter in your life abroad. So building a strong community that helps your social life is also very, very important. And it's something that if you ever want to go abroad, you must pay attention to that. And yes, many other things. But my conclusion point is, if you are passionate, and especially the young people, go out and pursue your dream. If you're a little bit old, maybe, you know, settling might be a good idea. and I say that because, you know, when you go outside, it's like, you know, you're resetting yourself, right? So sometimes, depending on the opportunities you have in Kenya, pursuing life in Kenya might be an easier option, a better option that helps you to grow than just going to some country to just gather a few coins. Because gathering those coins is also not as easy. So these opportunities are better for people who are a little bit younger. And so if you're young, do not be afraid of pursuing the opportunity to go out and, you know, see what life in the diaspora has for you. If you're a little bit older, you might be more cautious because by the time you catch up, you know, your years, your age is also catching up with you. So you might not be making much progress, so to say. It might be better for you to just build your life in Kenya. yeah, so to say. But my emphasis is for young people. You know, you still have a few years of exploring and doing experiments, and don't be afraid of doing that and making mistakes, actually, which is also allowed. Because when you go out there is nothing smooth, actually. You know, there's nothing smooth. You will struggle, you will do, you have ups and downs.
There is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, all of those are, it's one package, and it comes all together. So if you have advantage of a young age, you know, you have more time to accommodate all that and see where it takes you.
Wow. So I think you've had it. It's something that you have to think. It's a decision you have to make. It's a bold one. You might feel like you're regretting, but I think it all depends with like how you adjust your mentally, and when you go there, maybe don't be over expecting. Like maybe you want to go to Japan, and then the next year you are a millionaire. You've already made millions, so just be there with open mind, and I think you can excel almost everywhere that you go to with the right mindset. So I think that brings us to the end of this segment. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So lots of information coming out, lots of other detailed information that you might want to know. And if you need us to talk to him again about something specific, comment below as soon as you can. And even if it's a year later, it doesn't matter, but just keep commenting there. And then until next time, I'll see you.